All right. So, in the last class, we discussed the Blood model of conduction and how that can explain the Hall effect. Also, those two things we discussed. Like, right? I mean, in the Blood model, we actually treated electron as a classical particle and then applied Newton's laws of force as well as motion, and we derived a relationship for drift velocity as well as drift mobility, and we found out that mobility as well as drift velocity, which are two important parameters as far as electrical conduction is concerned, they depend strongly on a single parameter which is called scattering mean scattering time or relaxation time. And this parameter, which is relaxation time, that depends on the microscopic processes and microstructure of a material, right? For example, how are the lattice vibrations, what are the crystal imperfections and impurities. So this parameter depends on these microstructural parameter. And then we could also derive Ohm's law using this Drude model of conduction. We could also derive Ohm's law of conduction, and we found out that the electrical conductivity comes out to be proportional to electrical concentration and drift mobility. So if we want to have higher electrical conductivity, we need both higher electronic concentration as well as drift mobility. Both of them should be high enough. And then we also discussed about Hall effect, right? We applied these equations which we derived in Blood model, and then we derived the expression for Hall coefficient, which comes out to be a very simple expression like 1 upon En, where E is electronic charge and N is the concentration of the electrons, right? So those were the two main things, and then some applications, because in Hall effect basically we are multiplying two independent quantities which are current density and magnetic field, right? So that can be used in a certain way for in lot of electronic devices. Like there are many devices which use Hall effect because it multiplies two independent variable. For example, if we want to calculate power dissipated, which is voltage into current, there also in a lot of watt meters Hall effect is used. And then high sensitivity magnetometer also. For example, if you have very small magnetic field and if you want to measure very small magnetic field, you can magnify it by using high amount of current, right? Because you will get the multiplication of that, so you can simply magnify that effect in a high sensitivity magnetometer which uses Hall effect. So that was a quick recap of the last class. Now today we are going to start with another. I think there is a comment in the chat box. Let me just. Okay. Okay. So yeah, today we are going to start with the temperature dependence of resistivity. We saw in the Blood model of conduction that electrons, basically the conduction electrons, the valence electrons, which are conduction electrons, they are traveling within the crystal. And while they are traveling under the effect of electric field, they will also collide with different microstructural features, like they can collide with thermally vibrating atoms as well as impurities and defects, right? And these scattering events are the reason for the resistivity in any particular material. So actually what happens is, any event which is sort of affecting your relaxation time or scattering time, which is represented as tau here, that will add on the resistivity of the material. So any scattering event basically that will reduce the scattering time, right? The scattering time, mean scattering time, will reduce. Then the higher the number of scattering events we have, the lower will be the mean scattering time, and that actually is what is causing the resistivity in a particular material, right? So let us try to first, what we are going to do here is how the vibrating atoms, they affect or they bring in the concept of resistivity in the material. So the for if we look at an electron which is traveling inside the material, it can and if let us say the mean scattering time of the electron is tau, then the electron can travel a mean distance of L, which will be is equal to u times tau between collisions, where u is actually the mean velocity of electrons between the collisions. The mean velocity of electron is u, so we simply multiply it by the time which is tau, and we will get the distance which an electron can travel between two consecutive collisions, right? And now let us say the atoms are vibrating with a magnitude of A, right? If they are vibrating with a magnitude of A in all the three dimensions, then the scattering cross section can be written as pi A square, right? As we have seen, as we can see here, the scattering cross section can be written as pi A square, right? And since we are assuming that the scattering time is tau, which means the distance which is traveled in this time, in that distance we can have only one scattering, right? Otherwise it will not be the that will defy the definition of scattering time itself. So since the scattering cross sectional area is S in the volume SL, which is basically the volume which is traveled by the electron, right? L is this distance which is being traveled by the electron, and then the volume which will be formed by this cylinder because of the atomic vibrations of the atoms. In this volume we can have only one scattering event, right? Or there can be only one scattering center. Otherwise, if there are more than one scattering center, then we will have more scattering in this time, right? Which means our mean scattering time will not remain as tau, it will be less than tau. So using this definition of scattering time, we can say that ns times su tau, which is actually the volume of this cylinder which is being shown here, that should be is equal to 1, where ns is actually the concentration of scattering centers, ns being the concentration of scattering centers. Once we have written this relationship, we will get tau, which is tau should be is equal to 1 upon su ns, right? From this relationship we can simply rearrange this equation and we will get tau should be is equal to 1 upon su ns. Now let us see which are the quantities, because we are trying to derive the temperature dependence of resistivity, right? So let us see which are the quantities which are dependent on temperature. Velocity of the electron u is independent of temperature. We discussed that briefly in the last class also, that electron velocity is actually independent of temperature, because there is a definite and significant interaction between electrons and electrons. There will be an electrostatic interaction between electrons and electrons, and then electron and proton also there will be a electrostatic attraction, right? So because of these interactions, the electrons don't follow the kinetic molecular theory, because if they follow kinetic molecular theory, then simply actually the mean velocity should be dependent on temperature, but that is not the case because of these interactions, and we assume in kinetic molecular theory that there are no interactions between the particles, right? But here there are interactions. Because of that, they don't follow kinetic molecular theory. Therefore, the temperature dependence of resistivity comes from only parameter S. This concentration is also does not depend, the concentration of scattering centers, that also does not depend on the temperature, right? Because there are certain number of atoms, impurities and defects which are present in the material. They don't depend on the temperature. So only one quantity or parameter which is dependent on temperature is cross section of these atomic vibrations, cross sectional area of these atomic vibrations. Only that is the parameter which depends on the temperature, right? If the electron is within the radius of atomic vibration, if this electron which is traveling, if it is within this cross section, then it will go through the scattering event, right? And the larger the atomic vibrations, the larger the the amplitude of atomic vibrations, the larger will be the area, and that means there will be higher probability of electron getting scattered, right? There will, the higher the cross sectional area, the higher will be the probability of scattering, and that will mean smaller the relaxation time, right? The relaxation time will be smaller, so that will mean that scattering time should be inversely proportional to the cross sectional area, which is actually pi a square. So tau should be inversely proportional to a square. That we can define, we can basically come up with this relationship by following this simple logic, that scattering time should be mean scattering time should be inversely proportional to scattering area, which is proportional to a square. Once we have got this relationship, we can start another line of logic, which where actually we are applying kinetic molecular theory to the atoms, right? We can still assume, although electrons don't follow the kinetic molecular theory, the atoms in the crystal, they do follow the kinetic molecular theory. We can assume, because the interactions between atoms is not significant enough, so that if they follow the kinetic molecular theory, that means mean energy of vibration should be is equal to half kT in any particular direction. The mean energy of vibration should be is equal to half kT. And the average kinetic energy of an oscillating mass, if a mass is oscillating, we have read that earlier also, right? That if a mass is oscillating with a amplitude a and frequency omega, then the average kinetic energy of that mass will be is equal to 1 by 4 m a square omega square. So this vibration energy should be is equal to half kT, which we are getting from the kinetic molecular theory. Once we equate that, what we can get is that tau should be tau, which was proportional to 1 upon a square, that should be inversely proportional to temperature, because from here we can get that a square is directly proportional to the temperature, right? A square is directly proportional to the temperature. That's why mean scattering time should be inversely proportional to the temperature, right? Then we can simply use this relationship which we derived in Drude model, that drift mobility is E tau upon me. Then we can write tau is equal to C by T, because it is proportional to 1 by T. We can simply write tau is equal to C by T, where C will be a proportionality constant, and we can write drift mobility should be equal to EC upon MET. And we can also use the relationship which we derived earlier, that rho should be equal to 1 upon sigma. We all know that, and sigma should be equal to Ne mu, and that will give us that rho should be equal to MET upon E square NC. We don't need to worry about this constant so much actually, because we are going to replace that with a proportionality constant, which is a is a temperature independent constant, because here temperature dependence we have already got. All these quantities we are assuming, or actually they are independent of temperature, so this we are taking as a single constant, which is represented as a here. We are actually representing this resistivity rho as rho T, right? Because this is the part of resistivity which is dependent on temperature. And in this case, we have considered only the scattering events because of the atomic vibrations. We did not consider so far any other scattering sources, right? For example, defects or impurities, we completely neglected them. We have only considered the scattering which is happening because of the atomic vibrations. And that is why this resistivity, which is dependent on temperature, that is also known as lattice scattering limited conductivity or resistivity, because we are only considering the scattering events which are happening because of the atomic vibrations, and basically which is lattice, right? So this resistivity is also known as lattice scattering limited conductivity or resistivity. So according to the kinetic molecular theory, by applying kinetic molecular theory to the atoms and Drude model of conduction, we have derived the temperature dependence of resistivity, which comes out that it should be directly proportional to the temperature. Any questions on what we have discussed so far? What if we make temperature 0 Kelvin? Yeah, if we make temperature 0 Kelvin, then there will be no atomic vibrations, right? So that means resistivity will be 0. At absolute 0 temperature, the resistivity, the temperature, at least the temperature dependent resistivity, because in the upcoming slides we will see that there are other scattering events also. Because of that, there will still be resistivity, but the temperature dependent resistivity will be is equal to 0 at 0 temperature. Somebody asked actually, what if we make temperature 0 Kelvin, what will happen? So that's what, that the resistivity will be actually is equal to 0. How is the velocity of electron then independent of temperature? See, the thing is actually, to derive this part you will have to wait. Like right now we are just assuming. I have told you, and then you have to take it on the faith that the velocity of electron is independent of temperature. In the next chapter, or actually not in the next chapter, but next to next chapter, when we start taking into account the quantum effects, and we introduce the concept of Fermi energy and other related concepts, then we will be able to see that how the energy of electron is actually almost independent of temperature. Right now I cannot really prove it, but you will have to take it on my word. Okay. All right. So that, I guess, answers the question, but definitely in the next chapters we will see how the velocity is independent of temperature. Okay. So before we, if you have any question, you can type in the chat box before we go there, because now most of the students are there. So as I sent the email yesterday that the quiz will be on Monday and it will be conducted on Moodle, and there are actually uh, two or three students who have not registered on Moodle. Mostly they are fourth year students. So if you know any one of them, please, I can, maybe I can tell their names also. So if you have any of them as like know them personally, you can ask them to register on Moodle. One is Yashwendra Singh, then Ankit Kumar, and another one is Abhinav Singh Negi. So these three students, they have not registered for Moodle yet. So if anyone knows them, please ask them to register on Moodle so that they can appear for the quiz. Is there anyone with the name Mukya Bhavna? Yeah, she is attending the class, but you are not registered for the course. So please, I have sent multiple emails to you regarding your registration. Your name is not there in the academic portal on the registered students on this course. So please check your registration status. Those were the couple of announcements which I wanted to make. Now we have another question here.
Abhishek,
Yes, Varun.
uh, actually, Vaibhav Gupta has written to write the name of the students in the chat box who are not registered on Moodle. I think that
Okay,
is
okay.
one of the things.
Ankit Kumar, Yashwendra Singh, and Abhinav Singh. These are the students who have not registered. Okay. Okay. Then somebody is asking, why did we equate n times SU tau should be is equal to 1? Okay. So let me explain that once more. Here, please. What how we came up with this equation was actually that since our scattering time is tau, right? So the distance which is traveled by the electron in the time tau, there should be only one scattering event in that much time, right? If there is more than one scattering, that means actually the scattering time will be less than tau. So that's how. So basically, in this volume, there should be only one scattering center. That's how we can look at it. So that will mean ns, which is the concentration of scattering centers. If we multiply it by the volume, which is actually SU tau, you can see actually that U tau is the length of this cylinder, and A is the, sorry, S is the cross sectional area. So that's why S into U tau will be the volume which is traveled by the electron, and in that volume we can have only one scattering center. So that's why this ns times SU tau should be is equal to 1. Okay. Yes. Is that clear? I hope it's clear. Um, okay, fine. All right. So if we don't have any question from whatever we have discussed so far, the conclusion which we, I mean, the conclusion which we have drawn is there is a component of resistivity which is known as lattice scattering limited conductivity or resistivity, and that is that comes out to be directly proportional to temperature when we assume that kinetic molecular theory is valid for the atoms and the velocity of electron is constant between the collisions. Okay. Now let us move ahead. As I mentioned earlier, there can be other scattering sources in addition to these atomic vibrations. So now we will discuss those other scattering centers and how the resistivity is affected because of those additional scattering centers. So now let us say there are we are discussing the metallic alloys. Metallic alloys means, as we have seen in the previous chapter, alloy means there will be atoms of another element in the matrix of the host element, right? There will be certain concentration of the guest element atoms in the host element matrix, right? For example, here in this picture we can see that the matrix is made up of all the green atoms which are there. Then we have some concentration of some atoms of another element which is which is basically substituting at certain sites these host atoms, right? So now what will happen in this case? There will be, of course, there will still be scattering because of the thermal vibrations, but in addition to that we will have scattering from these impurities also. Now, why do we have scattering? How the electrons get scattered because of this impurity? Let us try to discuss that. First of all, when we substitute or when there is a different atom than the matrix atom, it will be either smaller or bigger than the host atom, right? And because of this mismatch in the size, there will be certain local distortion, right? There will be distortion around in the neighborhood of this atom which has been substituted. The atoms will have to displace a little bit to accommodate this smaller or larger atom, or we can simply say that the different size atom, to accommodate that there will be certain rearrangement of atoms in the neighborhood, and because of that we can say that there will be a local distortion. And because of this local distortion there will be a change in the local potential energy also, right? if the atoms are getting if the atoms are getting displaced, there will be certain change in the local potential energy. And as we know, force is the negative of the derivative of potential energy, right? Minus d by dx, that will be the rate of change of potential. Sorry, d by dx of potential energy is actually the force, right? So now if potential energy is changing, that means the force field in this neighborhood, that will also change, which means the electrons will experience different force. When the electron is traveling in this matrix, when there are none of these guest atoms, there will be a different force. But as soon as it comes in the neighborhood of these uh, foreign atoms, there will be a different force. And because of this experience of different force, there will be, actually we can consider this as scattering because of these impurities, right? And in case of atomic vibrations, the scattering cross section was limited to the amplitude of the vibration, right, which was much smaller. In this case, because the distortions can extend up to 2 or 3 atomic distances, or sometimes more also, the scattering cross section is actually larger. Let me bring back my pointer. Yes, as you can see here, the scattering cross section can be much larger if the local distortion extend more than 1 or 2 atomic distances, right? So this will be the scattering cross section will be larger in this particular case in comparison to atomic vibrations. Now, if tau is the effective cross scattering time, what is the meaning of tau? Basically, if we see the physical significance, it is time taken for time taken per scattering event, isn't it? So if we take reciprocal of this, which is 1 upon tau, the physical meaning of that will be scattering per unit time, number of scattering events per unit time, which is actually the probability of scattering. 1 upon tau, let us say if we are taking if we are taking tau to be effective scattering time, 1 upon tau is actually the net probability of scattering. Somebody is saying something. But this minus is valid only for conservative force, I guess. No, F is equal to minus dP by dx. Yes, here also potential energy is electrostatic potential energy also. Right? Somebody is asking minus dP by dx is valid only for conservative force. So that is true, but here also we are taking is electrostatic potential energy, which is also a conservative force only, right? So there will, it is not really, it does not make any difference. All right. So 1 upon tau, as we said here, 1 upon tau is actually the net probability of scattering. Then here we are considering two types of scattering, right? One is because of the lattice vibrations, which we are representing by tau t, because this is thermally dependent scattering event, and or thermally dependent scattering time. And the other scattering will be because of the impurities. We are discussing alloys, and then we are saying the foreign element. We are taking foreign element as impurities. Sir, can you please again explain what we are telling about scattering to few atomic distance? Okay, okay. Let me go back here. But he's asking why. What is this concept of scattering cross section, right? Why it will be larger in this case? See, in the case of atomic vibrations, the atoms, the vibration amplitude is much smaller. It is definitely less than the atomic distance, right? So the scattering cross section will also be very small. But in this case, as we can see in this picture also, when we put this guest atom in the matrix, the lattice distortions which are happening, they can extend up to few atomic distances. For example, this atom is displaced from its original position, as well as this atom is also slightly displaced from its original atom. And in this case, actually only one atom is visible to be distorted, but there are cases, there are actually in reality there are definitely cases where this distortion can be larger than one atomic distance also. So because of this distortion, the scattering cross section will also be larger, right? Because the potential energy will be different than the potential energy in the pure matrix. So this whole area will be the scattering cross section. That's why we are saying that this scattering cross section, because of the impurities, that can extend up to few atomic distances also. Is that clear? Does it mean less tau? Yes, exactly. It will means less tau, because if we have larger scattering cross section, that will mean more scattering, and that means smaller scattering time, or smaller mean scattering time. That's correct. Okay. So yes, once we have defined 1 upon tau as the net probability, and we have two scattering events, one because of the lattice vibrations, which is thermally dependent, and one because of these impurities, which is dependent on the concentration of the impurities, right? Because the more the concentration of the impurities, the more will be the scattering, right? So these two are completely independent, right? Atomic vibrations do not depend on the concentration of the impurities. So we can assume that to be independent of each other. And when they are two independent events, we can simply add their probabilities. So 1 upon tau we can write, which is the effective scattering time. That should be is equal to 1 upon tau t plus 1 upon tau L. Sorry, it should be tau I. Tau I is actually the mean scattering time because of the scattering from impurities. Once we know that, we know the drift mobility is directly proportional to mean scattering time, we can write this will translate simply into 1 upon mu is equal to 1 upon mu L plus 1 upon mu I. Then rho should be is equal to, rho is inversely proportional to drift mobility, so we can say that rho will be is equal to rho t plus rho I. All right. Then let us leave this for the moment. Let us concentrate on this particular relation. Rho resistivity is equal to resistivity because of the lattice vibrations plus resistivity because of the impurities, right? And this is known as Matheson's rule. This simple relationship which we have derived by simple logic, that is known as Matheson's relationship, which says that the effective resistivity of a material is summation of resistivity due to all different scattering events, right? Rho t is resistivity coming lattice because of the lattice scattering or because of the scattering from atomic vibrations, and rho I is actually the resistivity which is coming from impurities, scattering from impurities. This another relationship which I have written is rho will be equal to rho t plus rho r. This rho r is known as residual resistivity. This is resistivity due to defects other than the impurities. Also, if there are any other defects, for example grain boundaries or point defects, or it can be any other type like dislocations, any type of defect, the impurities the resistivity which is coming from them, that is known as residual resistivity, and that can also be because of this Matheson's rule. We can say that rho will be is equal to rho t plus rho r, and if there are also impurities we can simply add rho I also here. Rho will be is equal to rho t plus rho r plus rho I, because Matheson's rule simply states that the effective resistivity is summation of all the resistivity because of different scattering sources. I will actually, I forgot to mention that in the slide, the slides which you will get, which I will upload on the Moodle, I will add that into in the slides also. Any questions so far? Anything which is not clear on this slide? Okay. If this is clear, then we can see from here, right, that the components in the components of the resistivity, there is only one component which is dependent on the temperature, which is lattice scattering limited resistivity, and we have seen that that is directly proportional to the temperature. All other forms of resistivity, they are independent of temperature. So when we are trying to look for the temperature dependence of resistivity, we can simply write rho should be is equal to at plus b, where b and a are actually constants, temperature independent constants. Lattice scattering limited resistivity is dependent on temperature, and all other forms of resistivities, they depend only on the concentration of the scattering sources. For example, the resistivity because of the impurity scattering, sorry, rho I, yeah, so I forgot to mention this resistivity which is coming from impurities, that can also be written as impurity scattering limited drift mobility, or impurity scattering limited resistivity. Okay. Rho r can be written as residual resistivity, which is resistivity due to defects. These both of these resistivities, they depend on the concentration of defects or the impurities. There is a question which is you told us that velocity of electron is independent of temperature. So does kinetic energy of electron dependent on temperature? No, because the velocity is independent of temperature, that will also mean that kinetic energy of electron is also independent of temperature. Okay. Okay. So we have seen lattice scattering limited resistivity, impurity scattering limited resistivity or drift mobility, and then residual resistivity. Impurity scattering as well as residual resistivity, they are contained in this constant which is B, and we have written lattice scattering limited resistivity as A times T, right? Residual resistivity consists, I have already mentioned that it consists of contribution due to defects such as grain boundaries, impurities, vacancies, and interstitials. Contribution of lattice vibrations to resistivity is temperature dependent, while residual resistivity depends only on the concentration of impurities. Resistivity is found to be only weakly dependent on temperature in metallic alloys. You can see that why, right? For example, we have already seen that the scattering cross section area is much larger for impurities, right? So that's why the resistivity is affected much largely by the impurities in comparison to lattice scattering limited resistivity, because the scattering cross section area is much smaller for that. So that is why resistivity is found to be only weakly dependent on temperature in metallic alloys, because resistivity is dominated by impurity scattering rather than the atomic vibration scattering. Sir, is pi is part of PR? I did not get your question. Sir, is pi is part of PR? Residual resistivity. I don't, PI is part of resist. Oh, okay, okay. PI is part of PR or not? Yes, I mean you can write it that way. ultimately, see, I mean, it does not matter how you write it, but all other forms of resistivity, they are independent of temperature, so they are all contained in B. So for the definition sake, actually we say that rho I is impurity scattering limited resistivity and rho R is resistival resistivity, and it does not contain rho I. Okay, it does not contain rho I. By the definition we can say that. All right. So any questions so far? Any questions? Any doubts? Please explain last point again. So your I was trying to explain your question whether Pi is part of this, basically rho I, whether rho I is part of rho R or not. By definition, actually rho I is known as impurity scattering limited resistivity or impurity scattering limited. It should be resistivity. I will correct that because it is rho here. So it is impurity scattering limited resistivity, right? And rho R is residual resistivity. So in by definition, rho I is not contained within rho R. Can you can unmute yourself and ask question, Saksham?
Sir, in that slide, you were saying that in metallic alloys, resistivity would be very less dependent on temperature. Some
Hmm.
sort of explanation you were giving
Okay, okay, okay.
in the next slides.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, okay. Yes. So what I was trying to explain is, in case of, see, if we look at the resistivity of metallic alloy, that will be is equal to rho, and we are assuming that there are no other defects like grain boundaries or dislocations. They are not there. That means resistivity will be is equal to rho T plus rho I, right? Resistivity because of temperature or atomic vibrations, and resistivity because of impurities. Those will be the only two components in the resistivity. Now, I think you only asked the question. I explained that scattering cross section, which is much larger for the impurities, right? Because the local distortion or the lattice distortions, they can extend up to few atomic distances. While in the case of atomic vibrations, the scattering cross section is limited to within an atomic within the atomic distance. It cannot go beyond one atomic distance. Actually, it will be much smaller than one atomic distance also, right? So the scattering cross section is much smaller in case of in case of atomic vibrations, while in case of impurities the scattering cross section is much bigger. That is why when there are impurities in any material, the resistivity is dominated because of the impurity scattering rather than the lattice scattering. And because impurity scattering is independent of temperature, the resistivity in metallic alloys, which actually have the impurities, right? Alloy means that there will be some foreign elements. So because of that, the resistivity will be only weakly dependent on the temperature, because the resistivity will be dominated by the impurity scattering, not by the lattice scattering. Is that clear now?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any other question? It's clear so far? Okay. If it is clear, then maybe one more concept we can introduce today, which is, so actually, see, I mean, we have got the temperature dependence of resistivity. We can write rho is equal to AT plus B. But in practical purposes or in the experiments when we are designing materials, we use a different uh, concepts, or a different parameter, which is known as temperature coefficient of resistivity. We can actually we can, if we define these constants A and B, we will get this relationship. But in practical purposes, for whatever conventional reasons, we use a different parameter which is called temperature coefficient of resistivity, and which is defined as fractional change in the resistivity. So if you see delta rho by rho naught, that is the fractional change in the resistivity per unit temperature increase, which is delta T here, right? So delta rho by rho naught, that is fractional change in the resistivity per unit temperature increase at a reference temperature T naught. That's how we define the temperature coefficient of resistivity. And if we simply integrate this equation and assume alpha naught to be temperature independent, then we will get this relationship, which is rho is equal to rho naught into 1 plus alpha naught T minus T naught. That is the temperature dependence of resistivity, which comes from this definition of temperature coefficient of resistivity. As I said, this equation will hold true only if TCR, which is temperature coefficient of resistivity, is constant over the temperature range. Because if it is not constant, then we will not be able to integrate simply, right? If there is a temperature dependence of this, then we will have to take that into account before we integrate with respect to the temperature, right? So experimentally, people have derived a relationship between TCR and temperature, which comes out to be rho is equal to rho naught into T by T naught to the power n, where actually rho naught and T naught are reference resistivity and reference temperature. We can see that in this table also. We have actually here this table gives the value of rho naught and alpha naught. Basically, alpha naught is 1 upon T naught, right? If we take 1 upon T naught, that can be mentioned as alpha naught, and that's why the units are also 1 upon Kelvin, right? And there are different values of n for different metals. So we cannot really assume, for practical purposes also, we cannot really assume n to be 1. If we take this to be 1, that means alpha naught is independent of temperature. But here, as you can see, and the value of n here, if n is 1, right? But n is not 1 for most of the materials. It is other than the 1. So that means there is a definite temperature dependence of this alpha naught constant. We cannot take that as constant here. So we can from this table we can see we can say actually, if we know the value of rho naught and alpha naught, we know the temperature dependence of we know the value of TCR, and also we know the value of resistivity as a function of temperature. All right. Any questions? Let us look at this picture now. Actually, that this will explain a lot of concepts which we have discussed so far. It's a very interesting figure here. Most of the concepts which we have discussed, sometimes we say that pictures are more powerful than a lot of words, right? So this figure will make actually will clarify a lot of doubts which you might be having. So let us look at these straight lines for most of the pure metals. For example, silver, copper, not nickel, but actually tungsten and tin. We have these straight lines are parallel to rho is proportional to the T. That is the relationship which we derived, right? So most of these lines for pure metals, silver, copper, tin also to large extent. I will explain the deviations in the coming bit. But for the pure metals like silver, copper and tungsten, this relationship is very well followed, which is rho is equal to AT, right? For copper, gold and aluminium, all these metals, these relationship are being followed very well. We don't see much deviation from there. Now let us start looking at deviations. So first of all, it fails badly for magnetic conductors. For example, iron and nickel, they are actually magnetic conductors. Nickel, you can see this plot, which is light blue, and iron, where is iron? This is iron, which is dark blue, right? So they are not. These lines are not. First of all, they are not parallel to this, very much parallel to this, and also secondly, there is a change. There is a sudden change. There is a discontinuity in the first derivative, right? So basically, there is a sudden change because actually at these are the temperatures at which there is a transition from magnetic to non-magnetic. Once there is transition, they start following this rho is proportional to the T. But before this transition, the relationship is not followed. This rho is equal to AT relationship is not followed very well, right? Because magnetic materials, they have the atomic vibrations are different, or they behave differently in case of magnetic materials. So that's why this relationship is not followed for magnetic materials. And once there is a transition from magnetic to non-magnetic, basically which is known as Curie temperature also, we see again that the relationship is again followed by these metals also. Secondly, last point which we were discussing, the temperature dependent of alloys is very weak. So these are the alloys. For example, nickel chromium is an alloy which is used as heating wire also, right? Inconel also is an alloy, and we see that the gradient is very small. Small gradient means their temperature dependence is very small, right? Because they do not on temperature very strongly. That's why, and their resistivity is although their resistivity is very high, right? Because it is coming from the impurity scattering. It is not dominated by the atomic vibration scattering or lattice scattering. That is why their temperature dependence is very weak, but their resistivity is very high, right? So these were the points which we have discussed so far, and we can see that those are followed in the experiments also. We can see these trends which we have derived so far using the theory, basically using the Drude model and the concept of scattering. Is there any question? There are three main things in this figure. Pure metals like copper, gold, aluminum, silver, they follow rho is equal to AT relationship very well. That means their resistivity is dominated by lattice scattering. Magnetic conductors such as iron and nickel, for them lattice scattering is not dominant and it fails. But once there is a transformation from non-magnetic to magnetic, they start following again this rho is equal to AT relationship, which means again the lattice scattering dominates in these materials once they become non-magnetic. Third, for alloys, temperature dependence is very weak. We can see that in these two alloys, the and actually this also monel also is an alloy, right? So these alloys, the temperature dependence is very weak because their resistivity is dominated by impurity scattering and not by the lattice scattering. Again, yeah, one more point which I left out: tin melts at 500 kelvin. So you can see there is a discontinuity in the curve at around 505 kelvin. That is because that is the melting temperature of tin. It goes from solid to liquid state, and that is why there the resistivity of tin increases once that phase transition has taken place. Okay, I think that will be it for today. I think because we have already covered a lot of things today, so I will give you guys some time to digest it. If you have any question, we still have 5 minutes, so you can type in the chat box or you can simply unmute yourself also and ask the question. Yeah, yeah. Somebody is asking about Gibbs phase rule, but I think right now we don't have time for that. Sir, to find degree of freedom at liquids per require, what do we take? P plus F is equal to C plus 1 or P plus F is equal to C? For the whole phase diagram, only pressure is a constant. The phase diagrams which we have dealt with, they are all drawn at constant pressure. So that's why it will be the for the whole the region of the phase diagram, P plus F is equal to C plus 1. That will be the relationship which will hold true. To answer your question. Yes, one more announcement. We will have a class on Saturday because Saturday is the working Monday. Although we will not have tutorials which are held on Monday, but we will have class at our regular time. I will send a link, WebEx meeting link for the Saturday class because that is not covered in the series of classes, so that you will get over the email. All right. So we will have a class on this Saturday. How does Curie transformation affect resistivity with respect to temperature? See, as I said, in the magnetic materials, the atomic vibrations are of completely different nature in comparison to non-magnetic materials. Because magnetic materials, they, the basic electronic behavior is itself very different. Once the Curie transformation takes place, which means they go from magnetic to non-magnetic, then they start behaving normally, as we can see in this figure also. That rho proportional to these lines are very much parallel to rho is proportional to the temperature. Okay. Right now we cannot go into a lot of details of what happens in a magnetic material. but for now it is good enough to say that the atomic vibrations in a magnetic material are quite different, and they can have the electrons can have different kind of scattering in a magnetic material. All right. uh, any other questions? If there are no questions, I think we can stop here for today. We will meet for our next class on Saturday from 9 to 10, and our first quiz will be on Monday from 9 to 10. Okay, thank you everyone.